Right. Hello, hello. Everybody start getting those cameras on for those that are camera available. We're going to chit chat just for a little bit. Give those who are still on their way for this lunchtime session. Anthony, what's up, brother?
Hey, Andre, how you doing?
I'm well, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. How are we feeling about bar prep? Where's our head at? Are we feeling a little overwhelmed? Are we feeling good? Yeah, where's your head at?
I'm feeling good right now. Like honestly, I'm doing the MBE course. As I said, I think I'm just like going through towards. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's coming back. And I was like talking to the professor about it, and he was like, man, the stuff that we have you all do is kind of like more nuanced in the bar. And I was like starting to see that. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm not too stressed about it, making sure I just like, remember the big stuff and like, it's coming back. It's like riding a bike, right?
Good. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody, I hope we can all capture that a little bit, right? Because that's hopefully where I want all of you all, as you guys are here, as you all are, taking early steps, like I want you to, feel the luxury of what you're doing, right? Feel the ease of what you're doing of taking those early steps. And yeah, it's like riding a bike, and just like riding a bike, you're gonna fall off, right? You're gonna get back on and then keep going. So I love that mental state that you're in. So awesome stuff. I see a few people from my Cowboy writing class. Good to see you all in here. Aris, how you doing today, man? Oh yeah, you're muted. Aris. Oh, maybe Aris is talking to somebody else. And then Phoebe, I see you in here as well from the class. How you doing today? Good, good. All right. So yeah, we'll just give it a few more minutes before we get started. Let's go over to Dr. Tana's session. So and then remind us, you're doing this really early, right? Because you're not taking the exam until July 2026.
Yeah, but my dean convinced me I need to take it in February. So
Okay. So
yeah.
February 2026.
Hmm.
There we go. There we go. Awesome. So yes, everything here is going to be good information on just what choosing a bar prep company looks like. I know you're very much so team legally fit, so we'll definitely get into the details on just how to sign up. But a lot of the stuff, everybody, for you all today is just understanding the landscape. I think that's the luxury that we have of doing this early. I'm super excited to do something with you all that we haven't done before, which is like we're going to actually look at some scorecards from people who haven't passed and really understand the scoring of how the bar works and different things. So really good just to, again, take these baby steps to understanding what's going on, especially when there's so many changes right now. Right. So I've been updating my class on it. There's a lot of changes coming up with the California bar. Okay, so I say we go ahead and get started. Again, I think some people might still be moseying on in. So let me go ahead and share screen. Okay. So, welcome to Bar Exam Success Day. This is, again, an informational session to give you tips and tricks, tools, information, all regarding the bar exam, your preparation, and ultimately your success in passing this test. Okay, so we're going to start off by making sure we understand the components of the bar exam. Okay, and so for this first little third of this presentation, hopefully my cow bar writing students are already finishing my sentences because we've covered this a little bit. So we have the components of the California bar exam. There is the written portion and the multiple choice. All right, you have 5 essays, right, that are 1 hour long. You have an hour and a half performance test, which is a lot like your first year legal writing course in the sense that you have an hour and a half to put together some type of legal work product that's being asked of you. Could be a closing argument, could be an objective memo for your supervising attorney, could be in a memo to go straight to the court. So they'll tell you what they want you to do. You have everything you need in this closed universe. That's what a performance test is. All right. And then we have the multiple choice questions. So, yeah, those are the things that we have essentially the multiple choice and the essays are what we've gotten a lot of throughout law school, right? It's almost the makeup of every law school final exam for those doctrinal courses. All right. So, what is novel for my Cal-Bar writing students and for probably most of us is understanding the scoring behind the California bar exam. Okay. So, first off, right at the very top here, we see that a passing score is a 1390 out of 2000. All right. So, Anthony, that says right there that that's a 69.5%. What's the initial impression of seeing that? It could be some mixed emotions, I'm sure, but I'm curious. What do you see when you see that?
Right off the bat, I think to me that's I just see doable. Like I think, I see like 69%. Um, like at least I maybe I'll speak for my cohort. Like I feel like everybody's always gunning for like 90 up, right? So like when I see
Yes.
something like that, we're just like, all right, we like, like let's smoke this real quick because this is like, not saying it's gonna be easy, but just like that feels like, even and then that was like the lowered score, right? It was higher than that at some point. So it's like it feels
Yes.
like it feels I don't know, I want to say it feels easy, yeah, but it does a little bit.
Yeah. And so this is where, right, we might have heard the terminology that the bar exam is a test of minimal competency, which a lot of times is in conflict with the very, challenging bar passage rate that we have. But this is a reminder to an extent that it is. And what you'll be learning, at least through the way that I'll show it to you today and how I operate my bar prep program, is that it's very much so a game, right? It's a game of points. And look here that again, you see that there's a total of 2000 and your goal is to just get at least 1390. And so you have to study and attack it in a way where you're going after the points. So we'll talk more about that. But yeah, 69.5%. There's definitely the other question on the other end of like, okay, well, if it's only 69.5%, why are so many people not passing, right? So as Anthony's alluding to, it's still a challenging exam and process, but yes, this is doable. All right. So it says here the average of your scaled written score and scaled MBE score must be 1390. So you take those two portions, right? And we'll see a scorecard here in a second. You take those two portions and then you average them out. And then when you average them out, that average must be above 1390. So the obvious question I think some of us have, what does that mean? If you have a really strong essay score, that could balance out a little bit of a lower MBE score and vice versa. Hopefully, in theory, we have two really high scores and we're not even worried about even cutting it close, right? And let's talk about cutting it close. So it says here, how does reread work? So when you take the exam, you get your MBE score that's all just right by the computer because it's just, essentially reading the Scantron. But the essay grading, right, as we know, can be pretty subjective. The idea is that you get one or a set of readers to go through your initial scoring of your essay. If your initial scoring of your essay and your MBE is above a 1390, congratulations, you're done, you passed. If your initial score is below a 1349, right, it's just an automatic, you didn't pass, and now you have to take this again. Now, if you're in this small window of 1350 to 1389, what they actually do is put you into this regrade bucket, right? And so, I mean, and your heart goes out. Imagine if you had 1389, 1 point less than, and now you're in this reread bucket. And when you're in this reread bucket, what they do is they give another set of graders to grade all of your written portion. MBE, again, is computerized. That stays the same. They regrade all of your written portion. And then for each assignment, they give you a new average score. And so then that average score becomes your written portion score. And if that happens to take you over 1390, then now you pass. But if it keeps you below 1390, you do not. All right. So we'll see this here in a scorecard to illustrate here shortly. The last little bit on the written portion, it's graded in increments of 5. All right. And so as you see below on the second prong, essays and PTs can be scored between 40 and a max score of 100. But most scores range between 50 and 80. All right. So that's really the range of what you see. I've never seen a 40. That would be almost like you had to try to get a 40. In my opinion, I've seen some really bad essays and they have received 50s at the lowest. And then note that PT scores are weighted double. right? So each essay is worth 100, or each PT is worth 200. They still grade you on this range of 50 to 80, but whatever that score is counted as double. All right. And then look at those essays, right? 55 and lower is below passing. 60 to 65 is passing. Like if you got all 60s, as we're going to see here in a second, that's not good. But if you have a balance of 60s and 65s throughout, you're again just kind of like barely hitting that mark, right? It's kind of just like, all right, this is, not playing it safe. It's just like squeaking by that balance of 60 and 65s. 70 and a higher is above passing. And that's my goal for all of my students, is that we have at least a couple of 70s or above, ideally at least 180, right? You want that one that knocks it out of the park, because again, all of this is weighted, right? All of this is graded in conjunction with the other portions. So then you have the multiple choice. We don't know the exact number needed, okay? Scorecards don't share how many you actually got right or wrong, just how you compare to other students by topic. But the trend and the information that we receive is that 60 to 66% should be a passing score. But there's a little bit of variability, I think, that happens from exam to exam, because this is a scaled score. So there's a bit of a scale as to, how many you needed to get right to get into that range from exam to exam. But more or less, right, that's why you see this range of 60 to 66%. All right. So let's look at this score sheet right here. So this first one, right, we see close but no cigar. Right? Before we look at the whole first, second read, et cetera, take a look at the very bottom, right? Where it says total scaled score 1377. That means when it was all said and done, we were below that 1390, which is why they got one of these cards and not a simple pass. By the way, unfortunately, when you pass, they don't give you one of these, which kind of sucks. Like you would love to just kind of say, hey, let me see how I did, right? But unfortunately, you only get one of these if you don't pass. All right. So looking at this scorecard, right? Phoebe, we can clearly see that this student had a strength in what portion of the exam?
Looks like property. Real property.
And focus
Oh,
on the raw written,
the
scaled written, and scaled MBE. So where would we say they had a strength when we're looking at the raw written, and scaled MBE? And actually don't even focus on the raw written. Just look at the scaled written and the scaled MBE.
The I can't tell. Oh, the written part was better than the MBE.
Yeah, exactly. Look, that scaled written, Phoebe, was a 1500, right? Well above a 1390. Again, if you get 1390 and 1390, put those together, the average is 1390. So anything above a 1390 shows you're at a sufficient place. And then now it's like, can I go even above to account for a lower grade? So they got all the way up to 1500. Right. And unfortunately, though, right, we want that scaled MBE. Again, that baseline is 1390. And if anything, at least a little close to it, look how low they were. And that 1500, as good as it was, just wasn't enough to save that 1255. Right. Let's take a look at the first read and second read, as you guys can see what I was saying. So look at essay number 1, 70 and 70 for an average grade. Operant grade is the average now of 70. Now, this is what I see every year. And this is why a lot of this is why you do not want to play around with bar prep. You really want to give this your all because of so much of the variables and subjective nature of this. Essay number 2, they're telling me that attorney graded essay number 2 and gave this a 55, which is below passing. Then another attorney, a different attorney, read the exact same essay and gave it a 70, which is above passing. How can you have that, right? So that is a 15-point difference and could ultimately be the difference in one passing or not. And then look at the rest, right? That happens to be a 15-point increase, which is pretty rare, but essay 3, 5-point decrease. Essay 4, 5-point decrease. Essay 6, 5-point increase. So he has all this variance here. And in my experience, typically the reread for whatever reason, it's typically a lower average that you end up getting, but sometimes it may work out in your favor. So yes, that's this first scorecard. Any questions on this scorecard? Okay, so let's go to the next one just to see another, right, kind of version of this. So total scaled score here was 1347, right? And so Phoebe, again, if we look at that scaled written and that scaled MBE, this is a rare scenario where they literally got the same scaled score for both portions, which is where we can see that's how that average works, right? Of that total scaled score, simply those two scores put together divided by 2, which gives you 1347. Now, this is why I was telling you this scorecard tells us that just 60s will not work, because that's essentially what they averaged here. 60, 65, but look at SA5 was a 55. So we can balance those out to now those are 60, take 5 away from SA number 2 and give it to SA5. Both of those are 60. And you have 60s across the board. And that gave you a 1347. So you have to, if you're skating by, at least factor in a few 65s. All right. And then, which we didn't focus on the last time, notice again on the MBE side, they don't give you how many you got right. Those numbers on the right there, next to each subject, are telling you how you performed, what percentile you were in for that particular subject. So it could be, right, the Civ Pro questions were really hard. And out of the 30 questions for Civ Pro, the top score was 20. Well, then out of that 20, let's say you scored, 15, right? And so then now you are in like the top 70th percentile. Well, you're in the top 70th percentile, but at the end of the day, you still only got 50% correct of the Civ Pro questions. So this is really hard to interpret. And again, all you can take is how you're stacking up against everybody else. Okay, the higher the number, the better here is how that works. The lower the number, right, not as good. Okay, so there we go. That's interpreting scorecards. Really good to, again, just kind of know how the scoring works. By the way, let me just give you guys even a little bit throughout all of this. It's about bar prep in general, and then also I'm going to give in, my philosophies, what Legally Fit does, etc. Going back to this right here, in my bar prep, my goal is to strive for 80s and 85s on the written portion. And so we very rarely give out grades, right? As far as like in this scaled format of 50, 55, 60, because the reality is that it's so subjective, right? Like I could say this is a 55 or 60, and then you can get it on the exam, and who knows what that person on that day is going to give you. So my whole mindset is don't focus on, getting that 60 or 65, and if I'm there, focus on perfection, right? Keep your mind on what will it 80 look like? What will the 80 look like? And just do that constantly. So on the day of the exam, hopefully you're getting 80s. And then even if you fall short, you're falling short to a 70, right? Hopefully at least a 65. So yeah, keep that in mind, right? With wherever you go with bar prep, just don't be obsessed, because sometimes students get a false sense of confidence, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, all my grades are coming back as 60, 65s. Like, I think I'm good. And no, I want that hunger and that appetite for how can I improve this? What was my area for improvement? All right, so California bar exam pass rates, right? So again, 1390 is the passing score, 69% of the total points, but we have a 51.5% pass rate and a 33.9% pass rate for February. And so, yes, right. This is an exam that we have to put our due diligence in, our thinking caps on, and our efforts, right, to make sure we're one and done with this thing. So that number is not given to you to scare you. It's given to you, for you to be informed and know the challenge that is ahead of you and treat it with respect and accordingly. So the takeaway, kind of, again, we're riding that same energy that Anthony started us off with, is just crush it, right? Like, let's just do what we have to do. And so here are the steps, right? Like, again, this is now the generic value, which I want you all to write down, take a screenshot. And here's what you need to do at this phase of your journey. Choose the right program. And then once you're in it, follow it, right? Once you're in it, you have to stick to whatever system they're giving you. So first off, choose the right program for you and then follow it. Take the right early steps, okay? We'll talk about that. And then lastly, don't lose the mental battle, right? All of us are not like Anthony, right? Anthony's in that place where, again, he's in a good mental state. For a lot of us, we're feeling overwhelmed already, and we haven't even started bar prep. Imagine what that can then feel like once you're in bar prep, right? And it's the pace and the speed of going through this. Again, I'm here to remind you that it doesn't have to be that way. Like, you can be in that mental space of like, hey, let me take the steps, let me do the work and stay mentally sharp, stay mentally strong. And it's good if you're already feeling a certain way to work on that now, right? Because if you don't address it, it has the potential to just continue to build. All right, so let's talk about how to choose the right program. That was step number one. First off, all companies start with the same resources. What I'm going to explain to you here now in the next 5-10 minutes is about, first off, how we're all the same, right? Which gives you, honestly, a sense of confidence that in theory, you could go with any reputable company and ultimately pass, okay? So first off, it's the resources for the written portion. All of the reputable companies are taking their practice directly from the California bar exam, right? So every single exam, the California bar exam releases the questions they just tested and 2 of the high scoring student answers. So we have some great resources, right? After every exam, we get the questions and the fact patterns that they tested and 2 high scoring student answers that gives us an idea of what rules they're looking for, what type of arguments they're looking for, etc. There are 40 exam administrations available. That's at least 200 essays, 40 PTs, and 480 sample answers, right? So again, all of that's out there. The one thing that you will see is different, but at the end of the day, it's still connected to the same stuff, is that every company will then write their own version of the sample answer. So that way you don't have to go look at the 2 provided. It's still a good idea to look at those here and there, but yes, companies will then write their own sample answers for these questions. So that's the written portion. How about resources for the multiple choice portion? All right, so this one is where it gets a little bit trickier. All right, we're going to learn about the current version of the California bar exam and the multiple choice, and then also talk about these new changes with Kaplan. So let's do the background first. California bar exam, for as long as I know, has never made their own multiple choice questions. They have outsourced that aspect of their exam to a third-party company called the NCBE. The NCBE administers the UBE exam, which also includes multiple choice. And they've said, we don't want the whole UBE exam, just give us your multiple choice. So the NCBE would give them the 200 multiple choice exam questions per exam. They would grade it and then give California Bar the grade for each student on that exam. Now, over the years, here's been the issue with preparing for the MBE. As an organization, the NCBE has decided we are not releasing our questions after every exam, right? Over time, and probably over like the course of maybe 20 years, they've released 1,500 questions that are removed from their pool of testable questions. So at first you're like, okay, we do have something from them, but understand what we've received from them. What I like to call essentially their trash. These are the questions that they are phasing out of the exam. So these are not, hey, here are questions to prepare you for this upcoming exam in that traditional manner. So these are the best of what we have. So we use these. But what does this end up resulting in? Almost every student, no matter which multiple choice resource they use, Adaptable, UWorld, etc., you get to the exam and you're just like, man, those questions looked a little different, or they were testing different things. And again, it's because we don't have necessarily the resources that tell us this is what you should expect or how you should expect it. So when it comes to choosing between Adaptable and UWorld, understand that all these multiple choice companies, they have the same 1,500 released questions, and then they make their own additional, right, internally created 1,500 or 2,000 additional questions that are inspired by the released 1,500. But in my opinion, you can't really go wrong with either one of them. At their core, they're based off of, again, the same resources. And it's a matter of just choosing one, going through with it, and learning how to critically think through these questions. Okay, so that is the understanding of how it has been working. Now, let's talk about the changes. So the California State Bar is in some ways doing the exact same thing, right? Which is why I'm not like too excited or thinking this is going to be too different than what we've already done. They're going to continue to outsource for the multiple choice questions. But what's also interesting and not being talked about too much is that they're also outsourcing the essay and the PT. What they've said now is that, hey, Kaplan, we actually want you guys to just take over the whole exam for us. Like, we'll pay you the money, you make the questions and grade the whole thing for us. All right. So they're moving away from the NCBE. This is also going to allow them to move to remote and test facility options, right, for the exam. A lot of people were thinking that we were going fully to a remote, but it appears as though students are going to have the option of either doing it remote or you can go into a physical test site if that's what you prefer. Plan is to do that starting in 2025. Now, there's a lot of the questions and the like doubt and the fear and the worry of like, what is the exam going to look like now that Kaplan's doing it? The reality is, everybody, we just don't know. But here are some of the things that they're saying. It's anticipated that the exam is going to look very similar to its current version. And Kaplan has said they will release study guides, but the question is when, right? Especially for those taking the February 2025. I mean, it's like the clock is ticking. That program will start in December. Who knows when we'll get this? But the whole idea is that how much can this change, right? And it's in the interest of the California bar for it not to change too much, right? Nothing about this is them saying we want to change our bar exam. We just can no longer get our questions from the NCBE. So it forced us to now get them from somewhere else. So, of course, ultimately, it is going to be a wait and see approach. Now, before we move on, I didn't get a chance to add in a new slide for this. I told my CalBar writing class last night, if for those that are not aware, with all of this newness, California is doing this whole experimentation project where if you are graduating this December or next May 2025, you can sign up to take the test either in November, an experiment test, either in November of this year or July of next year. And if you take this test and you perform well enough, they will add an undisclosed amount of extra points to your actual exam when you take it. So this is you doing a practice test to give them data and feedback on maybe some of the changes they're considering. And in return, if you score well enough, they'll give you, again, an undisclosed extra amount of points on your exam. So we're still waiting on the official release for this and more information and more details. So just stay tuned for it, but something to put on your brain if you're interested. Anthony, like, does that sound like something that like we should probably all do?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Absolutely. Why not? Like, even if you went in there and just completely bombed it, right? It's just going to give you an idea of what to expect. And you have the shot at getting extra points. So, yeah, there's nothing to lose and everything to gain there. So, I think everybody should be looking out for that. Okay. So, I've gone through now what is similar about all the companies, right? Which is, again, for any reputable company, you should be able to pass with them. But now we're going to talk about what actually makes a company different. What is going to increase your chances of passing on your first attempt? And what's also going to give you the least amount of stress and headache as you go through the process? To me, it comes down to three things. You have to find materials that work for you. That is probably number one and most important. Next, look at the strategy and the approach of the company. What is the way that they instruct? What is the way that they teach you? How do you walk through their program? This is something that's hard to do just from the surface level and does require you kind of roll up your sleeves to learn about this. And I'm going to help with that today. And then the last one is support. What does support throughout all of this from your bar prep company look like? And that does vary. All right. So the first one, materials that work for you. So most of any bar prep company, right, is going to be you relearning these 13 subjects, right? So number one is you need to have engaging lectures that are worth your time. You're going to be spending 8 hours, right, per subject at least to watch videos. If those things are boring and ineffective, only leading to you to spend more time on your own, teaching yourself the same thing you just learned, that is where you're going to have a problem. So with that, right, go look at videos from the company that you're considering, right? To make sure, okay, yes, I can learn from this, because that again is going to be one of the biggest frustrations, because you have to spend so much time watching videos and relearning the law. You need that to be efficient. Now, this next one, right? Consistency amongst your study materials. Some companies, typically the big box companies, independently contract various professors to make their materials that result in a lack of consistency and more work for you. Ask around and ask for samples on this, okay? But I can tell you, right? When I was in bar prep with one of the big box companies, Professor A wrote the contracts outline. Professor B wrote the contract sample answers for the essays. Professor C wrote the, contracts, lecture videos, right, et cetera. Well, Professor A, B, and C, all working on contracts, did not work together. So Professor A has a rule for offer that has 3 elements, and then Professor B has a rule for offer that has 2 elements. And then now as a student, I'm forced to figure out which one to choose. Now, sounds right, maybe straightforward, but imagine doing that, right, repeatedly for every subject, right? You want consistent and cohesive materials, just again, save that headache. And then the last thing on materials is know and see how easy it is to read and navigate. Are the materials digital only, or are they also printed? And even beyond that, is there cohesiveness amongst them where you can quickly navigate? So it says here, you'll be using these materials for 10 weeks or more nonstop. Organized and clean materials make a difference when you're doing that on a daily basis. So again, look at the materials. Sometimes, right, they are saving every dollar they can to squeeze as many words on one page to cut that cost down on the creation of those books, versus something that has bold headings and easy to see where you're at and easy to get to where you need to be. Those things, again, will make a difference. All right. So that's materials that work for you. If you have any questions, by the way, I'm going to go through a couple of more slides, start to write them down, and I'll open it up for another round of questions. So next, let's talk about strategy and approach to bar prep. Okay. So first off, what is the company's approach to reteaching you the law, right? That's one of the big tasks that a company has, is that we have to get you back up to speed for contracts, property, torts. And believe it or not, when you actually pop the hood on these different bar prep companies, there is significantly different approaches on how they do that. One of the most common ones that you'll see of the big box companies is that you're essentially going through all the material and you're juggling multiple subjects at once. I personally don't like that. I'll get into my method in a second, but just to give you an idea of what that looks like, it's like on Monday, you might be reading a contracts a lecture. And then on Tuesday, you're doing a contracts lecture, a torts lecture, and then doing practice problems for contracts, right? And I've seen it to where you could have tasks with up to 3 subjects in one day. To me, that often, creates a little bit more of chaos as opposed to a different approach that I'll share. I've seen some other companies do some alternative things like learning all of the subjects first really fast. Like, let's go through all 13 subjects in like 3 weeks and then kind of revisit them. I don't necessarily like that approach. There is just practice and memorize. So this is a very, very aggressive alternative approach where some people out there are like, you know what? You don't even need to learn the law. Just do a bunch of practice tests. I do believe in the importance of practice tests, but I also believe that you have to have a foundational understanding of the law. But again, that's a strategy that's out there. As we see in this last sentence, my approach is during the 7-week learn phase, right? Most of bar prep, you'll be learning the law. I give my students at least 3 concentrated days on just one subject. And the goal with those concentrated days is to really roll up your sleeves and get into crim law. Let's learn it. And then let's immediately see it in practice, right? Let's immediately see like 5 or 6 essays in a consistent manner so we can extract patterns. Then let's do nothing but crim law multiple choice. And the idea is that you establish that comfort with crim law, and then let's move on to the next subject. And the way that we implement review is simply having days for it on the weekends. So it's one subject at a time with review. That's our approach. Next, let's talk about open book versus closed book practice. Many companies throw you into the deep end with closed book exams before you are ready. I strongly, strongly believe that this is the wrong way to go. Oftentimes for students, this results in underperformance and losing momentum and motivation, right? Nobody wants to go to the gym every day if they're not seeing the results, right? You want to see that scale kind of lose a pound or two. You want to see, the results coming in to keep that motivation of going. Same thing with bar prep, right? Like you want to see that progressional development. So what we do is more so, right, like riding a bike, right, using that analogy, instead of just throwing you straight into the BMX competition, let's start with the training wheels and then let's wean off when it's time. So we heavily implement open book practice because, believe it or not, most of us, a lot of times as we're getting back into this, even if I give you your outline and it's an open book test and I give you the fact pattern, there's going to be so many areas for improvement, so many missed points. So I want to rule out just the issue of memorization to really get into what your actual strengths and weaknesses are. Factoring in memorization early on disguises what your true issue is. Is this a memorization issue, or do you not know how to write well? Do you not know how to catch the arguments? So we can highlight that by getting memorization off of the table at the beginning. And then when we're ready, now let's factor in memorization. All right, so that's that. And then next is formulas and templates. The goal of bar prep, of any preparation, right, is to make your life easier for the big day, right, or for where you have to showcase these skills. So be sure you're choosing a company that gives you easy to use formulas and templates so you can increase your speed and accuracy. We offer formulas for every portion of the exam, essay, MBE, and PT, and we provide essay templates for every subject. Boom, I'm discussing Civ Pro, personal jurisdiction. Here's my template. I'm discussing negligence under torts. Here's my template. Again, these are things that will increase your speed and accuracy. All right, and let's go to one last one before we open it up for a few questions. The last one is support. Support and the amount that one needs it or desires it does vary from student to student. But in my opinion, again, with us not wanting to run the chance of not passing this exam, this is something that I think everybody should at least have access to in the event they need it, as opposed to needing it and not having it. Okay. So when it comes to support, let's talk about some of the categories that are important. First, the ability to ask questions. You will have questions during bar prep. You'll have logistical questions on the program or schedule. You'll definitely have substantive questions on the law. Most companies only offer limited digital support. Email your question, right? And then whatever their time period is for responding, sometimes it's 48 hours, sometimes it's longer, right? Maybe sometimes it's shorter as well. They'll get back to you in an email response, okay? With Legally Fit, you have a team of attorneys, staff, and instructors to talk to throughout the week, right? So the idea is that we're filtering through those questions and getting you immediate assistance, right, as much as possible. Next, ability to connect with other students. So bar prep can be a very isolating experience, right? Imagine when you're in finals for law school, right? And that like week, you just feel like, man, I'm just in the thick of it. I'm by myself. Maybe you have a study buddy or not, but it could be very isolating from your family, your friends, etc. Very much so the case for bar prep. And you're no longer, for most companies, in a classroom. So you don't really always even have the camaraderie of your peers, right? So it's important for you to assess whether having that camaraderie and that presence of other students is important. For me, it is. And that's what we aim to offer in our class by having live workshops, right? And having that somewhat of a classroom environment. And then lastly, in support, assistance with adjusting or adapting to bar prep. I mean, literally, virtually every student, there's going to be a time where you have to adjust your study approach. And that's definitely the belief that there's no such thing as a cookie cutter program that works for all, which is why in our program, we have opportunities to assist for customizing the program or customizing it to your needs. But the reality is that you're going to face that challenge, right? Whether something simply isn't working well. And sometimes it's because life happens and disrupts your flow. Sometimes there's deaths during bar prep. Sometimes there's sickness and other things. Self-study programs often require you to figure it out on your own, which is sometimes doable. But at the end of the day, a lot of times we're entering into the wild, wild west with no guidance. And I've seen that go poorly for a lot of students. It's good to get a little feedback from like, hey, how should I adjust, right? Now that I'm in this situation, what should I do moving forward, right? That's the support that's pretty important. Okay, so those are the three there. Let me just go back to the three here so we can see all three of them. I want to take at least one or two questions here. I'm sure there was one that popped up. So at least one or two questions, and then we'll save the rest for afterwards and move on. Yeah, Tyler.
Hi, I'm sorry. I don't know if you covered this or if you're going to cover it later. I'm just wanting to know, I know that you guys offer the early bar prep. I think it starts in January, right?
Correct.
When in January? I'm just trying to plan a vacation and I want it not to conflict with that time.
Yeah, so that's going to start in the second week of January. It's a slide that I have at the very end of when
Okay,
those important dates are. So I'll make sure we get to that. And it'll roughly be probably, I would say, maybe like in 15 minutes or so, we should be at that point.
gotcha. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Any other, and we'll take one more hand thought question on any of these three. Okay, and so if no question, I'm going to go to, I'm curious just to get some feedback from you all. Let me look at my list of people here. Let's go to, I'm guessing the people with no cameras on, you guys might not be available to talk, just listening. So I'll go with cameras on. Let's go with Phoebe. Just out of curiosity, which of these speaks the loudest to you as something that you know you're going to be looking for, right, in the companies you are evaluating?
I think right now, immediately thinking about support and adjusting because I feel like I always feel like I'm different or need some kind of a different twist on things, maybe. And so that's valuable to me right now.
Good. Yeah. Awesome. Right. And so that's like, the first empowering aspect of this is, everybody take the bar prep company decision into your own hands by knowing yourself and then again seeing how these various companies satisfy those needs. I always encourage people, right, whether it's Legally Fit or another company, let it be your decision, not the decision that you were pushed into by a school, by a friend, right, et cetera. Make sure it's yours. And again, these are the things I would recommend considering in that process. Okay. So now we're going to get into now a little bit more of a focused detail on Legally Fit Bar Prep, things like dates and deadlines and what we offer specifically and ultimately why you should choose us, right? But first, just give you just a little bit of good vibes from some of these are all former students of ours over the years. As you see here, established in 2014, we've been doing bar prep for 10 years now, and with a lot of success, right? So why choose Legally Fit? First and foremost, the results. Our students pass. We have a 93% pass rate for students that do, as just asked about, our early bar prep program that if you're doing the July exam starts in January. When you do that and pair it with our bar prep program, we have a 93% pass rate. Why? Because you're going through a very, very thoughtfully curated extended study period where we alleviate a lot of the problems and issues that come with just cramming your studying into 10 weeks, right? And by doing so, you significantly increase your chances of passing. When students do just our bar prep program, we still have an impressive 86% pass rate for those even just doing the 10-week program. And one of the biggest things that, right, like you don't always hear and see, somebody talking about, but one of the things that I'm most proud about as far as our results is that our students walk into the exam with confidence and a readiness to pass, right? And I think that is what's most important at its core is that do you feel trained by the end of it? Do you feel ready to go in there? Because that typically translates to you passing, as opposed to, man, bar prep did not go well, or I don't feel fully prepared, et cetera. And then again, that makes it that much harder to pass. All right. So after that, after the results, right, I want to explain how we simplify bar prep, right? One of the benefits that we have as being, right, we're not a new company. We've been doing this for 10 years, but a newer company is that we're giving you a much more modern and up-to-date approach to bar prep. A lot of the existing companies are at this point just honestly coasting on their reputations and just really networking and marketing and creating relationships with schools to continue to get students. Whereas companies like myself, we are really figuring out how can we elevate bar prep and take it to the next level. So you'll get a daily calendar with detailed instructions. You get amazing, amazing up-to-date materials that are super easy to use and navigate. And then we give you templates and formulas, as mentioned, that really make the day of that much easier when you have these to increase your speed and accuracy. Live support. You are an individual, not a number, right? And so with Legally Fit, you're treated as an individual. We have live workshops to perfect your essay and MBE skills. We have office hours and check-ins weekly, right? Office hours are for substantive questions of the law, issues maybe with some of the skills, right? If you want to come in there and discuss that. And then separate from office hours, every Friday after our workshop, for those that are interested, we have an open forum for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes for people to kind of vent about, what's going right or wrong within the program. How are they feeling? This is where that camaraderie and that student togetherness comes in to, one, realize you're not alone, and for us to provide solutions for what our students are facing at that part of their journey. Okay. And then lastly, personal assistance with schedule adjustments, right? So as needed, when things come up, especially for the students that are, where life happens and crazy things happen during bar prep, we work with our students to make sure they can stay on schedule the best that they can. Legally Fit guarantees. Let's go through this really quickly, but just to show you, how confident we are in our program and how it'll help you pass, right? Because at the end of the day, we have to make money to keep all these lights on, to keep offering this program to other students and keep making it better, right? But we're confident in doing this because we know we're going to help you pass. So there's an all-student guarantee, and it shows our commitment to our students. We call it the Legally Fit family, that once you're a part of us, we are going to give you access to our materials until you pass. Like, we are in this with you after you choose to go on this journey with us. But it gets even better from there with some of these other options. If you have a 3.5 GPA or higher and you take our bar prep, we'll actually give you your money back if you do not pass. And again, I have no intention of giving you your money back, is because I am that confident that you will pass. And then same thing if you were in an honors program, right? A money back guarantee if you do not pass. Okay, and again, as a reminder for all others, that's the all-student guarantee, free access until you do pass. We're in this with you until we are esquired. All right, so we're going to break down now the Legally Fit experience, okay? So let's imagine we're all our guy right here starting at the beginning of our journey, and I'm going to walk you through, essentially what this will look like. Right now, we're all in the boat. Some of us have already decided on Legally Fit, possibly, or another company, but for most of us, we're exploring our bar prep options. With Legally Fit, I want you to know that here are the things that you can do with us while you are considering things. You can book a consultation call where you can get personalized questions answered about why this company should be or is the best option for you. You can also get sample materials and lecture, so you can look under the hood as to how those things look and how well do you respond and receive the information from our videos. And which is really rare, we even can connect you with a former student of ours if you want to talk firsthand with somebody who's been through the program recently. Okay. We offer all of these things just so you can feel that much more comfortable in realizing that this is a great option for you. Okay. So all of those are there. Now, let's say it's like, all right, I know I'm doing Legally Fit, right? So let's now talk about your early start options. Number one, right, I want to talk about what it's called a bar success strategy call. So this is something that is very, very popular with repeat takers. And I think it would be a really, really good idea for first-time takers to do this as well. And this is where we can get on a call for an hour long, and we basically dissect your strengths and weaknesses. This is essentially a diagnostic and a report that we can use during this phase of your journey to then give you some recommendations on what you should do between now and your prep. So the goal is that you're entering bar prep with no significant deficiencies. Okay, so yes, this is an in-depth diagnostic and recommendation on how you can enter bar prep as ready to go as possible. So that's the bar success strategy call. Early bar prep course, again, has been mentioned. In a nutshell, this is a 12-week course that if you're taking the February exam starts in September, and if you're taking the July exam starts in January. Once a week, we go through a subject tested on the bar where you focus on relearning that law and doing practice multiple choice and essays. We offer for the July version of Early Bar Prep live workshops where each week we're going through this and giving feedback into these sessions, going through practice, allowing opportunities for questions, etc. And then lastly is the self-guided early start. So let's say you decide to go in with Legally Fit, you finalize your payment, you can actually receive all your bar prep materials as early as you want to start studying. This is something that you don't get with every other company. A lot of times there's only windows in which you can access your material. But with us, once you sign up, you can get those early. And if you wanted to, you can just start going through the program early as your early start. All right, so those are your early start options. Next on this top line of this experience is kind of all before your 10-week program starts is orientation. This happens a little bit closer to bar prep, right? So whenever your program is starting, you would want to do this maybe about 2-3 weeks beforehand, right? Or even a week beforehand, right? Where you're going through this orientation. This orientation, in my opinion, is so awesome in that it accelerates you getting acclimated to what bar prep is going to require of you. So that way you can hit the ground running. For myself and for most students who don't have an orientation, when I was in bar prep, you're spending those first 2 to 3 weeks just trying to understand what's going on, right? Imagine starting a new school. First couple of weeks, you're just like, how does this campus work? And where are the classrooms? And where does everything go? So we want students to have the opportunity to do that early because, again, in this expedited 10 weeks, you want to hit the ground running as fast as possible. Okay, so schedule and study expectations. We go over some of the strategy I want you guys to start developing. And then again, just an overall gearing up for bar prep. So that takes us, once we hit that curve, everybody, that takes us then into what is your traditional 10-week program, right? Your traditional 10-week process for an exam, for preparation. Now, this is what, again, everybody will have as a 10-week program, but of course, how they do it will be different. So we outline how our 10-week course works here. So as you see here, the first thing is that you enter into a 7-week learn phase. Learn the law, learn the strategy, right? The test strategy, right? And how to approach every portion of the exam. And throughout this, you are evaluating and adjusting. And we assist you with that with tools, progress trackers, resources and materials. And again, just lessons that show you when this is your problem, this is what you do to improve. After we finish the learn phase, then we have a week of like, all right, we've done all the 13 subjects. We've seen them all. Where am I at with everything? Assess and strategize. Where am I at with the skills and where am I at with the law? A lot of this comes from the mock exam that we do. From that, we'll have a comprehensive report and feedback for you on where your strengths and weaknesses are. And from that, we can create a personalized attack plan on what you need to focus on in the last 2 weeks, right? Which we see attack plan execution, review the law. We have the Legally Fit memorization system to cram in all those rules. And then we do simulation practice, obviously, to gear up, to get ready for that exam day. All right. And then lastly, as we see in our Superman pose, take the bar exam with confidence. That is the goal for all of us. Any questions on this Legally Fit experience? Any questions on this timeline or any parts of these steps? Okay, let's keep going. We're almost to the end here, everybody. So here are the 2 programs we are offering and the very special discounted price that is essentially limited to taking action today to secure these prices. So you have Legally Fit Bar Prep, which is normally $2,200. We'll talk about how you can get that for half off. And then we have Bar Prep Plus, that's $39.50, right? And you can get for half off for $19.75. So moving away from the price, let me explain what these 2 programs are. I'll start with the Plus. In my opinion, this is the premier, right, program, not just indicated by the price, but just also all of what you get. So this is where you get the live MBE skill building workshops. You get live essay writing workshops. You get daily and weekly accountability. You get access to recent bar prep passers for mentoring and support, weekly check-ins, and additional extras and support. This is the one where you're really getting that full Legally Fit experience, where we're in this with you, where we're giving you all of that support and all of that additional, again, attention with the live workshops to make sure you are progressing the way you should. The Legally Fit Bar Prep, we created for those that are saying, hey, you know what? I'm really okay with the self-guided bar prep. It just give me my materials and go. And I really like Legally Fit materials because I love the lectures. I love the materials. So can I have one that just doesn't have the extras? So for those that are interested in that, we created the Legally Fit Bar Prep, not basic, but right, the non-plus version where you can get all of those things for a reduced price. So that is essentially what Legally Fit Bar Prep is, right? So those are the two differences. This is just a quick little comparison, right? Just to kind of, again, give you all the preview of just what all of, again, the reputable companies offer. There's some others out there that maybe not be as big, so I don't have all the information, but I would imagine they would have, again, all of these same things. And then I want to highlight, again, just like what you're going to get here that you won't get elsewhere. The live lectures and workshops, office hours for questions, support, and customization to your bar prep experience. Okay, this is not a cookie cutter program. All right, so now lastly, with all of this, we're going to talk about how you secure not only that half off, but the other early commit perks, right? So for those that are ready to commit to Legally Fit early, we want to reward you with some additional benefits. So first off, you get half off of the program of your choice. Number two, for all those taking wills and trusts, community property, Crim Pro, et cetera, any doctrinal course you're taking in your third year that is on the bar exam, we give you materials to help you through law school and get an A in that course. And at the same time, start doing a little bit of bar prep practice by looking at those materials for the company that you'll be using. So this is a free resource for all those that have done master the subjects, right, for law school. This is essentially what that will be, and now free, having committed to our bar prep. And then lastly, as a perk of being a part of our specific early commit group, we're going to offer Zoom workshops once a month. They're going to be optional. And these are going to be ways that we can continue to support you between now and the start of your prep. Right. This is just something, again, that is another gesture of how we want to stay connected with you all. We're going to be going through skill building exercises. How about all of these, again, constant updates with these new changes to the bar exam to make sure we're up to date with what's going on. And I'll be doing my research and giving you guys those updates. And then just general opportunity for Q&A to make sure we're all on track and ready for prep when it begins. So how do you sign up for the Legally Fit Early Commit group, right, and receive these perks? You have two options. One, you're in the position, which I know some of you guys personally are already, where it's like, sign me up, I am ready to go. If that's the case, you can scan the top QR code right there, and that is how you can make your first payment. And look, you can either make your payment in full, right, which would be the $1,975 or the $1,100, or you can select a payment plan with up to 10-month options, right, where that's $197 a month. So to enroll in this, you don't have to make the full payment now. You can at least start by, or you can select a payment plan and making your first payment. Now, if you are like, hey, I'm in the boat of, I'm really liking Legally Fit, but I want a second to think about it. In order to secure all of these perks and be a part of this early commit group, you can buy yourself some time essentially by putting down a $20 deposit. But in order to do so, you definitely have to do so today. That $20 is not refundable. And all that's doing is locking in these prices and these perks for an additional 30 days, right? So you'll have until September 30th, so a little bit more than 30 days. You have until September 30th to then finalize your enrollment by making your first payment. Okay, so again, either you're ready to go, sign up, or put $20 down just to keep the option open for these perks and for that price. Okay, one last second to scan those QR codes. Also, we'll send up a follow-up email if you don't get an opportunity to scan this right now, if you're driving or doing other things. This will all be in a follow-up email after this session. Okay, so that is everything. Before I open it up to general questions, let me just go to this next slide that I know is right afterwards. And so, Tyler, Deadline to register for early bar prep is Sunday, January 2nd. First day of bar prep is Monday, January 13th. When it's first day, that'll be the week that it starts. But the actual workshops, just so everybody knows if they want to schedule accordingly, will be on Fridays at 2 p.m. Fridays at 2 p.m. is when our weekly live workshops will be. Okay. And then for those that are interested, here are the dates and deadlines. Just take a quick screenshot for all those that are interested in these important dates and deadlines. Again, all of this will be put in information given out to you all. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Let's go to Dr. Keisha. Keisha?
Yes. Is there an early date for the February 2025 bar?
So you want to do early bar prep for February 2025?
Yes.
Got you. So Monique, what's the when does that program officially start?
Let me get the exact date, but it starts the first week of September. Let me get the exact date.
Perfect. So yes, that one, right? The February bar prep, the actual prep starts in December. And so the early starts in September. So that will be starting very soon. And then we'll get that exact date for you.
Yeah, that would be September 6th.
And is there a different price for the early bar prep?
Yes. So for all those interested, the early bar prep is $2,200 for that program.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Ernesto, did you have a question?
She just asked basically what I was going to ask is if the early bar prep had a different pricing than what the prices we saw. So thank you.
Yes. So yes, all that pricing was for the actual bar prep. If you want to do the early bar prep course, separate program, separate pricing, that program is $2,200. Yes. And some people have asked if you all are doing any discounts or bundles. At this moment, we're not offering any bundle discounts because we've decided to, for the first time, offer half off of the actual bar prep. So yeah, for the first time, if you wanted to do both, you would essentially get, let's say, the bar prep plus, which is around $2,000, and early bar prep for roughly $4,200, which compared to before was closer to $6,400. And so right now we don't have any bundle discounts. The whole focus is on that half off. However, some students have reached out, and what we've presented is that if you want to sign up for early bar prep with 2 other friends, we will give a group discount in signing up for early bar prep. So if anybody's interested in that, right, feel free to email us that, hey, me and 2 other friends want to sign up. And what we've offered is $500 off for each of you for early bar prep. Perfect. All right. Any other questions? All right. Let's just get a quick little feedback. Dr. Tana, that was a lot of information, a lot of good information. How are we feeling after all of that? What are we thinking? Talk to me.
Well, you know, I'm always here for Legally Fit, so it's always good to hear what you're offering. I know I'm ahead of schedule, but you know, when I'm ready, I'll be there.
Good. And just out of curiosity, what aspect of just, the information, what was maybe the most light bulb? What was like one of the biggest takeaways, whether it was about Legally Fit or just in general about the bar that, you learned today?
Well, I'm definitely interested to see how things change. If, with the switch to Kaplan, I'm definitely going to be one of the students that sits for the trial, the experimental piece of it, just to get those extra points. I'm definitely here for the free points.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, all the changes, which makes sense in your boat, right? Because you got so much time. So I'm really interested in this wait and see, because in theory, you'll have a lot more information to work with by the time you get to the exam.
Yeah. And
awesome.
The acronym, I saw the acronym PT. I was trying to see what is the PT part of the
performance test.
Oh, the performance test. Okay, got it.
Which is the one that's like your laws paper. Yeah.
It's like the portfolio. Okay.
Exactly. All right, everybody. I mean, if there's no other questions, anything else anybody wants to, again, question, comment, this was a great session. Kudos to you for investing some time on a Friday to get more bar prep information, and feel free to call us, email us if you have anything else that you need to talk about. And you can also remember, book a consultation call, get sample materials, or talk to a former student of ours. All right, you guys, take care, and I will talk to you soon.
you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.